everybody. I'm going to put together a slab vase today, and it's going to be 3 different sides. So this, and you'll see the sides are here, and you get kind of a sense of the proportion of them. So I've got a way of hand building them that makes it a little easier and more stable that I think you'll enjoy watching. Alright, so I've got a slab ready here on its side, and the slab is flat, and I want the slab not to be flat when I'm finished, so it's nice to just put some foam underneath it and kind of press it in and firm it up here. And you know, usually when you make slab pieces, what you end up doing is you score and slip, and I do them both at the same time here. You score and slip, and then you take this other edge and score and slip it and put together, and it's really unstable when you do that, and the piece is tall and it just drives you crazy. So what I've found that works really well for me is I want to go a little thicker there in the corner, is I put the coil in to start, and then it's going to help me stabilize the piece as I make it. So see how I'm kind of pinching it down as I go along. It's kind of like it's going to be like a triangle shape, so I'm securing it here. And it lengthens a little bit, pressing that down, smooth that down a little bit here, and I'm going to smooth that in here, which you can't really see that well with the camera angle, but this is what I'm doing, like that. So I'll just go back to my positioning so I don't confuse you. Smooth that down. And then this piece is going to attach to this piece here, right? So I don't care about the top of it's level or not, but I do want the bottom to be level. So that's what I'm going to focus on here. And I'm going to score and slip this side. And this is a blunt edge, and when I'm scoring and slipping it, I'm pressing here, and I'm making it a 45-degree angle, so I don't have to cut it to make that angle or anything. I just have always believed that you have a nice, if you compress that edge in more, it's compression, 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 and it's going to make that whole joint stronger for you rather than weaker. Just going to dry my hands here for a sec. And let's just curve that in before we get going a bit too. Oh, my towel fell down. Okay, and now, I wonder if I'm going to secure this into here. Alright, so Parker's moved the camera so you can see what I'm doing inside here now. And I'm just pressing from both sides. Remember, when you push, you always want to have your hand on the other side to support what you're doing there. So I'm going to just go along here. I'm going to smooth that down, smooth that in. So now I've got this coil, I'm securing it in here, and it's going to make that join so much easier. So when I go to manipulate the piece and stand it up and move it around, I don't have to try to put the coil in while I'm trying to support it at the same time. So that can happen quite quickly. But I do need to secure it more, so I'm going to take my handy roller and see how that edge is. And I'm really butting the edges right together like that. They're not sitting on top. They're really compressing right into each other. Oops. Really use some pressure at the bottom because you want that to be nice and secure. And I'm gonna work on this later. This is the rough time when I'm putting the form together, but I'm going to finish it and fuss with it once the pieces are all put together and it's had a chance to dry for a while. Okay, so that's going to work for the time being, and I'm going to go back and now put the other side on. Okay. Just smooth. Now I compress that. I always have to kind of go back over my coil and smooth that in again so it looks nice inside the vase. And again, the more I compress, the stronger the joint's going to be, so it's all good. All right. Okay. Right, so I'm just getting this as a triangular vase, so I'm getting the other two sections all set to go, and I'm scoring and slipping these. Then I'm going to add the coil into it, like I did on the first one. And I'll put the coil on here, get it all set to go, and then we'll attach the third piece that's here. And see how I like to go down here, smooth that in. And then here too, that's not flat, so I'm going to compress that in. And I like to make that curve up because my wall is round, so I'm going to make it fit into my wall. So see how the before and the after, you see the difference in that? Alright, so just go and smooth that out here now. You always kind of want to go and cat look something else in another area when you're working too, don't you? Alright, just doing the third side here now. And see, I still have my thumb underneath here, so when I'm pressing on the one side, I'm pressing on the other. It's going to help my curve of the vessel as well too. Depending on hand positions, put my thumbs again underneath, pressing that coil in, smoothing that in. And then again, that's fairly uneven here, so probably should go this way so you can see what I'm doing better. See how I'm kind of pressing that in and making that nice and smooth, having some volume still left in it. We do things so instinctively with our hands, and interesting to do this and talk about it. Reflexes, mostly. Alright, so now I've got these two sides done, smoothing just that inside part, doing a bit of cat looking, as John Leach would call it. But those two sides are ready to accept this one. And I put this on the back side, not back or front, whatever, and I see how I've curved the walls in that as well too. Alright, so I'm going to score and slip this side, and I usually start with the dryer. This is a little drier than the coil I've just added, so give it a little bit more minute to acclimatize to each other before I put the parts together. Okay, so let me just get the bits off my hand. Towel is probably not as healthy as a damp sponge. That's what I should be using. Okay, so again, I want to line up the base on this here, line up that base, and just kind of going to pinch it, bring it in and pinch it here, pinch it up roughly. I'm going to do the same with this too. So again, I'm bringing those 2 points, those two ends together. Oops, it's not wanting to work as well as I hoped it there. There we go. Clay's great. You can just smush it into what you want it to do. Alright, so now I've press those edges together. And that's a special sound effect I have here in my roller. Compression, compression, compression. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. You're thinking, well, it's kind of messy, but we'll fix that later. Alright, and let's get this other edge compressed. And it's a little firmer towards your edges. Really make sure you compress when you get there. That's it. You can do whatever shape you want with slab and joining in. I find the bigger you go, the nicer it is to have that slab in first. It was a really big deal for me to figure that out when I was making these, because it makes everything so stable. Let's see. Alright, so I've got my coil in here now on the other two sides, and I'm going to now smooth the inside. I don't know if you can see in there at all. Can you see in there, Park, at all? So I'm going to smooth that like I did on the first side, and here too. And I just go up as far as my fingers will let me go. Friend Potter in Ontario friend gave me a drumstick years ago. So you know when your hand doesn't fit anymore, this is a great tool. So I can go down here now, and I can compress one side, and then the other side, and I can do the same on the other one, on the other one too. And then I can't reach any further. I'm going to have to do the top. So now see, look, it stands up by itself. You know, life is so much simpler here. Yeah, and then I'm just going to keep, I can get in here with my fingers, and then I'm going to keep compressing with the drumstick. Okay, so we've got the three sides done on the piece now, and we need to put a bottom on it. So I've got a slab here, and all the thicknesses of the clay, like the slab should be nice and even, and that includes the base. And the more even the slabs are, the more likely the piece is not to crack. You know, there's not going to be that tension from things drying differently if it's thicker and stuff, thinner, you know, and pulling and putting tension on the piece. So really fuss with your slab when you're making your piece, and take care with it. It will be worth it in the long run. It always is. So you can tell how I put that on there, and cut that off, and I'm going to put, again, same as the sides, I'm going to add in my coil. Now, because to do it later would be impossible. Alright, so here I am pinching that down and in. Make sure my end is nice and smooth, or taking that too. Pinch that off. And now, same as before, I'm going to compress that, and I'm going to angle that in, aren't I? Because I'm putting that other slab on top, the sides on top of it, the three slabs. So I just want that to fit in. So I'm going to smooth that out, get wrinkles out of that. Better if I use my right hand, probably. It's hard when you're left-handed person, you don't think about where the camera's coming. Alright, so I've smoothed that out on the outside too a bit. Make sure, check and make sure everything's okay. As far as not smoother surface, angled in. So I'm going to score and slip on the base. And then I'm going to do the same on the foot of the piece as well too. This is always a bit messy, but it always works out in the long run. Alright, so which side does it go? I think that's probably it. That's up. Let's try. Oh, that looks even better, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that's the side. So I'm just going to gently coax it to start with in on all the sides so that see how it's kind of fitting in here. I can turn around here, Park, make it easier for you. And now I'm going to compress this in. Compress this side in, turn that over, compress that in. This side's not wanting to go in as well. Alright, so now I've got that in. That actually is coming along well. You're thinking, well, it doesn't fit in there neat and tidy and that, but we don't work with wood, we work with clay, so we're lucky. We have all this flexibility here to have things be close and use them. So here we are here, and I'm going to compress that in here. Keep that line there. Alright, so I feel like I've got that really kind of compressed there now. So next, I'm just going to take my paddle, I got a nice big flat paddle, give it a bit of taps, flatten that out, compress it even more. And I can put that back up on here. So I'm going to let that sit for a while as far as the outside surface goes. And then inside, you're thinking, whoa, how's she going to deal with that coil in there? And that drumstick's just not going to be long enough for this piece. But I do have a longer piece of doweling here. So I've put the longer doweling in. And a lot of times my pieces are more open in that. So I'll literally put a headlamp on so I can see down at the bottom and see what I'm doing. But this is just more of a guesstimate here. I'm just kind of going around and flattening that in. I'm hoping to the edge, not having it stick out too much. I can shine a flashlight down later and check it out. But, you know, if my doweling runs along there nice and evenly, it should be just fine. Just compressing the inside a bit more. So at this point, I'm actually ready to just let this piece set up a bit, and then I'll finish the outside bottom, and then I'm going to work on the sides to make them nice and smooth and finished looking. Just before I'm going to let this stiffen up a little bit and come back to it later, I'm just going to check the edges, and it's easy for me to just fill in a bit of fresh clay here now, see if there's any hollow areas that I think might be trouble later, because it's easy to do that with fresh clay at this point. So I'm just kind of checking the lines, checking that sense of volume, and seeing what I think. Not worried about this, like I say. It's actually kind of coming together quite nicely. I think it kind of often tells me where it wants to end up, so I kind of don't fuss with it too much. Now, just kind of fill it in a little bit, maybe, and just let it be. Oh, a little spot there, and that. But I'm just looking at my lines, how the piece moves all around. Might need a little bit more clay in there. So I'll just put a little bit in there now, smooth it out. You know, I'm going to use this tool a lot later, but I can get a little more of a sense of how that's going to be later if I do a bit of that now. So when you're hand building, you can make a piece any shape that you want it to be. You just get the slabs rolled out. You can do it with patterns, or you can do it just strictly freehand, and then fuss with your slabs some more, get them a nice even thickness as I mentioned, and assemble them. You can make it with paper ahead of time to check the shape if you want. You can make things from patterns and be able to repeat the form, or you can strictly make each piece really individual. It's up to you. And any shape with slab building like this, any shape is possible. Okay, so the piece is leather hard now, and it's time to finish up and smooth the edges out. So I use a Surform, just a file, and I just put it in a credit card so it's nice to hold on to. And I'm just going to work on my lines, get the nice and smooth, no bulges in that. And I'll just carry on and do that. Work on the top a little bit. And I'll take quite a bit of time doing this, much longer to do this part of the piece than I did in making it. Finishing always takes time, so you just got to take the time. Some clay bodies have, this is a porcelain stoneware and there isn't any grog in it, so it's nice and smooth, but some clay bodies have grog in it, so it's a lot harder to smooth it out when I take a metal rib like this now and do that over top of the Surform lines because I want to smooth them. You might want to leave them as texture, kind of an interesting texture, but you can see I can just go over that and smooth it. And really that's what I do for the whole piece. I just go around and I finish up the piece, smooth it off, and I'll work on the bottom as well too. So I'm going to take here, I'm going to put a 45-degree angle here, and I smooth that out. Let me smooth out above it first. I'm just getting ahead here just to show you the steps, because this just takes a lot of time, and I just want to give you a basic outline so that you can know the steps to follow for yourself. But what you want to make sure you do is, under every piece, is you need to have a shadow. You need to have a negative space to have the piece set up on itself. So if you look at this side, I know it's unfinished, but it's still kind of stuck to the surface. And then when you look at this side, there's a nice shadow underneath the piece, so it just contains the space here. So I'll just carry on with this for hours, and then once the piece is done, you can have a look at it, okay? Okay, so we're just finishing up the bottom of the piece here, smoothing it out, and then it's a flat bottom piece, so I want to bump it up so it doesn't dry like this and rock. I want it to be nice and flat on the surface. Just smoothing out that negative space area and putting the piece down, and we'll just have a look at it here. So I've taken the Surform, the file to it, and then I finish it off with the Surform, and I will take a damp sponge to it and just finish it up entirely, but you know, basically it's ready for the kiln now, and so that's it. It's all done. Thanks very much for watching.